welcome everyone to the CANDU Sports Show on this beautiful Saturday on planet Earth. One of your hosts, Scott Blair, and
Donray Bennett. It's great to be here. A beautiful day with beautiful people. And let's get right to it because we were
let's
talking
get
last
to it.
night and getting fired up. So
Why were we talking last night? I guess shout out to Chris. He said we should chat about this. So why were we chatting last night?
so well, first and foremost, we had a can do. We 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 didn't discuss this pre-show, but we did face off in NCAA in college football 25
This is correct.
in a bowl game, the Hawaii Bowl, I believe it was, that we were
That's right.
both in. We're in a dynasty, several other folks, and the Running Rebels, played by the co-host over here, got the better of UConn Huskies. Uh, Started out going tit for tat, couldn't stop anybody, and then it just takes one turnover or one stop, which he got, and then he ran with it. So Coach Blair got the better of Coach Bennett in the first ever face-off in college football 25. So let me give you your just
All
due.
good. It
Congrats.
was fun. First time
Congrats.
ever
Yeah.
doing God, that's the first time I've done a head-to-head matchup in NCAA football since like what, 2014 or something. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
good.
So it was. And before that though, or yeah, I guess it would have been before that, right? We were going back and forth with text
Oh,
messages
yeah.
as we watched
A difficult,
the up and coming,
it's a difficult game to watch.
team of the year versus the perennial defending champs with the
Juggernauts.
MVP juggernauts with their MVP Fever versus Aces, and I was pulling out my hair. I was completely
Mine's gone. So
yeah. So let's start out there.
chop it up. Oh, Lord. All right.
Indiana Fever hosted Las Vegas Aces. What did you see, Coach Blair?
What I saw is kind of a couple of things. One, I want to make this comment when it comes to the WNBA. Listen, you and I are both, um, we grew up watching 1990s, 80s, but 90s mostly NBA basketball, right? Watching Barkley, Sixers and Suns and Pistons and Knicks and Bulls and everyone beating each other up, right? So we appreciate physical basketball. I actually think that the WNBA's physicality is a little bit too much. I actually think it's gunking the game up and it doesn't allow for movement in a way in which I think would actually lift up and showcase some of the skill sets of their players a little bit more. But there's also the extreme of the current NBA, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there. So to answer your question, what I saw is there's a reason why the Fever are just a little bit, what are they, one game above 500, I think. They make some, and they're not the only ones. I've seen Sabrina Ionescu literally dribble the ball out of bounds at half court more than once. Like, just like, what are you doing? But it's the inability to use the players that you have in a way in which you're using their skill sets to their, like, you've got Caitlin Clark, who, what? Everyone knows that when you say her name, she can shoot the ball. You're down three, and what do? You run a play for your center to shoot a three. What? End of the third quarter, Caitlin Clark actually has the ball, has the ability to shoot a three at the end of the buzzer, doesn't even get a shot up. It's almost like, yeah, no, we good. Well, guess what? We lost by three. Like, it's those kind of things that I see, and then also see Vegas. They didn't seem like they were all that interested. You were talking about that in the text, right? And then finally, all right, we'll turn the switch on. We're gonna win this game. Kelsey Plum in the corner, bang, let's go home. So that's what I saw. How about
And I
you?
want and I want to first emphasize what you said because there's people out there who be like, oh, women shouldn't be more physical and men should. What are you saying? But
Mm,
what you are saying and what I believe as well is there's a reason why the NBA moved away from the complete physicality.
yeah,
There's a reason. Although I enjoyed it and I loved it, for the game to grow and for skill sets to be on display at a better rate and players to stay healthy and for it to be a better entertainment package, they started to get a little more stringent on how physical you can be. The issue now with the NBA is they've gone way
all the way
too
to that.
far in many people's opinions, so they got to get a little more physical. It's not a
Yeah.
matter of guys this and
No.
girls that. It's a matter of there is a sweet spot where, as an observer of the game, it's much more enjoyable,
Hmm.
and they're failing to get into that zone. They're in the late 70s, early eight or mid 80s type
Yeah.
NBA, which was cool, but did not allow Michael Jordan to be Michael Jordan. And so they moved it a little bit so that you could get the mic and whatnot. And that's where they're at.
And robbed us probably of another 5 years of Larry Bird because his back got all jacked up
Exactly.
from all the physicality.
And
So
any other amount of players who may have been able to
yeah,
extend the career or been better, right?
yeah,
There's several players who had to play a different role because of the time. Um, and yes, what I said at the half was the Aces, they had a game plan. They shut down Clark in the first half, but Mitchell was going bananas.
yeah,
And
yeah.
as a defending champ on a Friday night when a lot of the country's watching, ego's going to get in the way. There's no way it
Hmm.
happens. It's kind of like Kevin Garnett's story about Matt Bonner going off on him, even though they're stopping Ginobili when he was at
Yeah.
Boston. They say something to him, and then he goes crazy. He's like, "What? You told me that?" I knew that was going to happen. So they come out, they talk about it at the half. You know, Mitchell's chirping, let's shut her down. And that was going to open up the gates for Clark to go ham. I did not see, and maybe you did, and maybe I missed the nuance, but I really didn't see a change in the Fever's approach. I didn't see like a tactical
No,
adjustment.
not
I
really.
just feel like, the aces change and allow things to happen. And yes, everything else you said, I just don't, it's the settling for the basic pick and pop with Aaliyah Boston shooting 1 foot inside the 3-point line. Now, if she hits it, okay, and she's got a good shot and whatnot, but that is like the anti. If long twos, it's just tough to take that with that much time on the shot clock, taking long twos and not attacking is crazy. And the amount of sets that were half court, let's take up 10, 12 seconds just trying to get it into the post and then get out the way. Not like let someone else dump it and have Clark run off screen or off ball
Yes.
motion to then come around back to the ball for an open three or anything. It was dumping inside and everyone get out the way like we've got
Yeah.
Duncan down there or something or Hakeem Olajuwon. I just could not believe
Right.
their offensive sets. It was mind blowing. And I'm like, yeah, I guess the Aces play good defense, but they didn't have to play much defense. There wasn't much, there was nothing to do.
And that's where there's right and I mean this is no different than the NBA too or college basketball and even high school level basketball, right? There's some programs that do things a certain way and others that don't. You go and you watch the Aces, what were they doing in the fourth quarter? Kelsey Plum's bringing the ball up the court. She's left-handed, so that's why I'm doing this with my left hand. Right, and they're running off a staggered a double staggered ball screen at the top of the key. Why? Well, now, or she's passing the ball, or she's coming off one of those staggered screens off the top, and then when she comes off, what do? You drop maybe Stokes, you pop Asia Wilson, right? But you put the defense in a really difficult spot because you don't know who you're going to guard, right? And
And after the
and
ball moves, she relocates to her favorite spot in the corner so
in the
that
corner,
should
and
the play not develop,
she's wide
she's
open.
she's she's got the kick, which
Yep.
happened over and over again. Sorry to
No,
interrupt, but
no.
it
See,
keeps going even after that.
yeah,
Is the
we on
point?
the
It's like
same wavelength
continuous.
there. But I do want to give credit to Coach Sides and the play in question where, they're down three with, I don't know, I think it was 25 seconds left in the game or something like that, that got Boston the corner three. It was a good play. It was good action. It was good action.
Mhm.
Good. I think it was Kelsey Mitchell who I think drove and Asia Wilson, I
Right.
think.
Right.
Asia Wilson did the right thing. Like, I'm going to give you that shot in the corner with Aaliyah Boston. Can she make those? Yeah, but she's not Kelsey Mitchell. It's not Caitlin Clark. Oh, and who has been leading the WNBA in three-point shooting since the Olympic break? Lexi Hall, which is surprising because she really struggled at the beginning of the year. But none of those got the shot. Like, what are we talking about? So that has been the year with the fever. And in particular, you said it, and let's highlight it. Let's put stars around it and balloons. And this even goes back to Iowa, where once Caitlin Clark passes the ball, all she does is stand 40 feet away from the basket. Can we cut? Get her to cut. Get her to come off a weak side double. Yeah, get her moving in space, like we just talked about with a Kelsey Plum. With a, go on down the list. I don't understand why that's not taking
And the
place.
thing is and when you're doing this off ball motion as well, like when you do it and you include other shooters, other guards, other threats, that's where you get the Clay and Steph dynamic
Yeah,
where
get
when
rid
you
of the
have
two-person
enough
game.
movement with two and one of them is going to have an open
Yeah,
shot
there's
off
not
off
enough
of
of
all
that.
that movement. So, and I get it. And I actually thought Mitchell was going to drive and just take the two because it looked like she had a lane, but then she stepped back and but it,
Right.
to
She hesitated. It's like, oh nope, it's open. All right, I'll take it. And
yeah,
she did the right thing. I
yeah.
just don't
It
understand.
just yeah, I can't, man. It's like they really, and this may not be the case, but I genuinely feel like a overwhelming percentage of individuals don't want her to be successful, Clayton Clark to be too successful this
Okay.
year. Like even within, and I know it sounds crazy or whatnot, but
No.
no one's going to convince me that Pete Carroll made that decision to not hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch in the Super Bowl strictly because he thought it was the best idea. Like I'm sure he thought that quick end was going to score. Like I'm sure he thought that,
Yeah.
but you're not going to convince me that he thought that was a better choice than handing it off.
Yeah.
But he's like, you know what? If we're going to score anyway, I'd rather be this way. That's what I believe went through his head.
Mm. Mm.
I think it's the same thing. I think this Fever team wants to win, but they would really prefer to win without her getting any more limelight than she's getting because it's whatever, whether it's ego, whether it's whatever reasons they have. I'm not there every day, but this is absolutely asinine, bonkers. It's nuts. It's nuts. And it's over and over. It's not this isn't a one time thing. It's over and over.
Yeah.
I can't. By now in in the season, you should have sets that are money go-tos that they have to decide, is Mitchell going to destroy us or is we're going to settle with a 30 footer from Clark. Like you pick your poison. No one has to pick any poison.
I
There's no poison to pick.
we don't know coach sides. We're not at practice or anything like that. All we can do is evaluate what we see on the screen, right?
Yes.
And we've coached for a minute, so we got a little bit of operational knowledge about basketball here for those who are listening in. Um, and I certainly in our family, we've been watching the league for years, and for my wife and I, certainly decades, since it started with the Houston Comets. And shout out Cynthia Cooper. But yeah, I don't disagree. Now, I have seen a little bit of change in maybe the last 10 to 15 games. I will say this with Caitlin, and I don't know if I don't know what it is, but her willingness to take that transition three-pointer, that has certainly changed at the beginning of the
Yeah,
year. I don't think that was there anywhere near as much as it was. I think Coach
sure.
Sides, quite frankly, told her, don't do it. We need to run offense. It's like, great. Trying to think, the movie Express. Shout out Ernie Davis, Syracuse University. I remember one of the lines of Coach said, I'm trying to remember. I think he did a horse analogy. Like if you got a Mustang in the barn, you got to let it ride or let it run or something like that. Like
Mhm.
that's her skill set, her ability to shoot off the bounce, and that's what maybe somebody would say is, well, she's a better three-point shooter off the bounce versus an in-place standstill shooter, a set shooter. Okay, I've seen her make the set shot and she's fine. It's more of what we've talked about. Just adding some more consistency and nuance to your sets. Do they run Caitlin off some off ball action? They do. It's like once in a while versus,
Mhm.
that. And like you said, and I'm just thinking as a coach, if I've got Kelsey Mitchell's dribble penetration strengths, I've got Caitlin's ability to distribute the ball, to shoot the ball. I've got Katie Lou who can stretch, and she's still adjusting to being out a little bit, but she can shoot the ball a little bit. Lexi Hall, Aaliyah Boston's um, versatility in the paint. There's so much more that I think I would be doing versus what we're seeing, and I think that's what we're trying to get to. Is that
Agreed.
fair?
Okay. Yeah, it's very fair. And like you said, we're not there. We're not, and you certainly watch more than me, I would say. But
And
so
I'm
you've probably seen that incremental growth
a little
much
bit,
more.
a little
Plus,
bit, but
you're also a Hall of Fame coach. Let's not forget that Hall of Fame college basketball
I
coach.
appreciate you.
Um,
I
yeah,
appreciate
but
you.
my and my frustration is born from the genuine desire for them to be successful, for the league to take flight, for things to work out for the better, and it's just it kills me when I see some of these things. I'm like, what world am I in
Right.
that you're elite shooters really when you have two on the floor that can and not that Aaliyah Boston's bad and it was a
Oh,
good
she's
shot and it
great.
was
Oh, I
in and
love Aaliyah
out.
Boston. Love
It was
Aaliyah
in and
Boston.
out, but have her crashing, put her on the high post opposite the ball action, and then have her set it off screen from the high post, get swing it the other way, and then she knows that the ball's going up as soon as it gets past her ear, and then she crashes through the middle. Now you have a possible, there's just so many things that ran through my mind except for what happened.
And again, I just want to make sure I repeat this to our listeners. Prior to, so this is 2 games ago, is when this stat was shared that since the Olympic break ended, the player with the best 3-point shooting mark is Lexi Hall. I think she's like 22 of 33 prior to
Wow.
this game and this game. You know how many threes she shot last night?
How many, coach?
One. 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 So again, put your players in positions to
Yeah.
be successful, accentuate their strengths. She's really come a long way. Beginning of the season, we saw her on more than one occasion shoot 3-pointers that were literally hitting the side of the backboard. Um, just holy, and we watching her play when she was in Stanford. It's like, what's going on here? Took her some time. She's calibrated. She's in a really good place. She's doing a lot better defensively. Let's see how the season plays out. Currently, the way the standings are playing out, the first round is going to be, let's just say, interesting. Currently, the way it's set up is going to be really interesting. The team that everyone had counted out from the beginning, now that Brittany Sykes, Syracuse, shout out, has returned. The Mystics are currently in the 8th spot, so that means they'd be matching up against the Liberty, which would be a really that has they have always matched up in the playoffs, and this is going
Mhm.
back to the Elena Deladon years, but even last year they played in the first round. We'd have Minnesota against Phoenix, which would be really wild because again, Minnesota's head coach is the U.S. Olympic coach, and this is probably Diana Taurasi's last year. Connecticut Sun is currently sitting in the 3 seed, and guess who they'd be matched up with? The Indiana
Indiana
Fever.
Fever.
And then 4-5 is one that gets you popcorn. I think this is going to be the best first round matchup. Granted, it's 4 and 5, so it should be the best just based on that. But I actually think that um, if we let the season run out a little bit more, the standings would shake out a little bit differently. Vegas against Seattle is going to be outstanding. That should not be a first round matchup.
It shouldn't. And you know, if you take away the first quarter or tenth of the season, the standings look, Vegas would be higher and wouldn't shake
Yeah,
out. So Seattle's kind of getting it's a tough pool.
pool,
That's a
tough
tough
pool.
pool as a as a 5 seed to have to play arguably the best team in the league. But
And
like you
Seattle's got
said,
Gabby. Seattle signed Gabby Williams, and she's really, really added a nice dynamic for them.
yeah. But we'll see. Like you
All
said,
top five teams.
it could still move.
Truth,
So
all top 5 teams have the ability, I think, to win this year. So we'll see. Not too far
yeah,
away. I think we got 2 weeks or a week and a half, I think, until the playoffs start. So all
beautiful. It's that
right.
time of year.
I know you want to talk about the pigskin. You want to get some NFL action. I wouldn't mind chatting about it because I got some things to say about the Bears. But
Absolutely.
let's first start. Let's go to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and let's chop it up with all things Eagles. I'm so glad they beat the Cheeseheads. There's not a lot of times I cheer for the Eagles, but whenever they play Green Bay, I'm here for it. So go Eagles.
Absolutely. It was a great way to start out. I'm not a fan of teams going losing a home game to go play
True.
in a country and da 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 da. I understand growing the sport, so be it. But shout out to the Birds. They came out, for a first game, I would have liked to add better field. It's hard to tell,
Yeah, true.
with the field conditions didn't allow, but saw some great things up front on the line, on both sides. Saw some questionable things, but again, game
Yeah.
one. Um, and of course, Saquon, doing what
Woo,
he did both through
woo.
in the pass game and the run game,
New York Giants, how
and
you
and
feeling?
he can
How y'all
block.
feeling?
And that's the thing, he can block too. Giants, y'all hilarious. Unfortunately, ended with Love with that last second, last drive getting hurt, which don't want to see that. But overall, the Birds came out doing well. I can't wait to see him this weekend. I really want to see what that secondary does. Um, you know, Rookie corners coming out and playing physical. I love that.
Hmm.
Can't wait to see what Cooper does. I think that there are talks about him getting a little bit more PT and, hopefully getting into more permanent role by, within the next couple of weeks. So overall, the Birds played, in my opinion, you expect to see some of the things you saw. But I think they're going to keep the ball out of Jalen's hands more in terms of the run game. Like I think what
Yeah.
we saw was there's not really a need for that tush push when you have a dude who can squat 600 back there. Um,
Truth.
a simple, RPO or option from the shotgun. I mean, not that here, that's anti my philosophy,
I
right?
know.
Get in the I formation
Get
and
an
get
I
down it down
formation
there.
right down there.
But it's 2024, so you have enough. Um, but there's some things I would love to see this week. But overall, I was pleasantly surprised at the improvement in the linebacker play. That was a big question mark after last year, and the folks that we brought on to be linebacker. Um, Overall, I was happy with the Birds. First week, we got the W. That's what really
That's what
matters.
matters.
I watched it back on replay, um, just to see. Like I was really watching it, just checking the trenches, watching Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Like I was trying to really see the question marks at the end of the year, how they responded. And I'm not gonna lie, with the field conditions, and with the unique, you know, Amazon Prime or not Prime, whatever Peacock or whatever cameras and angles. It was a little difficult. It wasn't quite the same watching it back. So I look forward to this weekend and seeing adjustments, right? That first week where
Yeah.
everyone's learning. Week two and beyond is where it's like, okay, we know what we are, we know what we saw from the other squad. What are we doing this
Right.
week? So this week will tell us more about our coaching staff that is practically all brand new um and our new team. So that's what we had. Now, how about you over there in Chicago country?
I
Unless you
got you.
want to chime in on that.
I don't have much to add other than I'm intrigued to see what y'all do with your defense. I'm a big Fangio fan, of course, with his time with the Bears. Unfortunately, he didn't end in a way in which I would have liked because of the double doink, but that's all right. He had a really good defense his last year with us. But really quick shout out, you and I were lucky to have grown up when we did. I'm thinking about the youngins who might be listening and watching today's episode because when we talk about growing the game, the NFL was doing that and was had some momentum on this back in the 90s. I'm just going to drop. I actually ran into had a conversation with two colleagues from Europe this week, and we got to talking about football. And the World League came up, right? So we were
Mm,
talking about Frankfurt Galaxy. We were talking about the Barcelona Dragons, the London Monarchs. Like we were
yeah.
talking. I'm like,
Wow.
yo, you want to talk about Birmingham had a team. Where were they? The Birmingham Fire or something like that. Um, but anyways, that was a good football, especially Frankfurt. They had a pretty good squad.
Frankfurt, yeah, the Galaxy was the main one that I remember that made.
Yeah, they had a
They were
good
like
squad.
purple and
Yeah, they had
orange and silver or
funky,
something. Yeah.
funky uniforms. But yeah, just want to give a shout out because I'm the same. The Bears go to London this year, I think, to play Jacksonville because we know Jacksonville like half their games are in London at this point. Mine is, the Bears showed up and played great defense. Like I think, right?
Yeah.
What a surprise, right? They
Make sure
played
you
great
put
defense,
defense at the end.
right? They played
Yes.
great defense. The whole world is in panic mode, and Bears fans are in panic mode over Caleb Williams. I'm kind of in a wait and see. He's a rookie, played his first game, and you know what he didn't do? he didn't turn the ball over.
Turn the ball over.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing, right? With Justin Fields, I love you, man, but you fumbled way too much. The interceptions, it wasn't huge, but he fumbled all the time. Caleb took care of the ball. Now, he did have like one where he was lucky because he threw it like 1,000 miles an hour. The ball went ricocheted up like 200 feet. At least it seemed that way. But luckily, Rome Odunze scooped it up. I think he then fumbled it, and then a lineman jumped on it. It was kind of an interesting exchange. We'll see. They are in front of the bright lights to Sunday night against the Houston Texans in Houston. So we'll see how the
Mm.
offense should be better. I mean, there's a lot that I would like to break down. I get using 3 wide receiver sets when you got Rome Odunze, when you got DJ Moore, when you got Keenan Allen, but I don't. Cole Kmet, who's been like top 5, top 10 tight end in the league for a couple of years. They signed Everett who he was with the Chargers for the last couple of years. He actually took more snaps than Cole Kmet, which made
I
no
know. I have
sense.
Komet on a fantasy league. I
Yeah.
know.
I'm like, what the heck are you doing? And Everett sometimes loses him. He's not a very good route runner, in my opinion, versus at least Cole Kmet, who is. That didn't make any sense. They rarely ran Khalil Herbert and didn't do a lot with Swift. Now, granted, they did a really good job. The Titans did of taking care of the line because the Bears O line has looked like it's been looking since they haven't been good since Olin Kreutz played center. Like that's 20 years at this point, roughly. It feels like 20. It's not quite 20. He was on the team
Right.
that went to the Super Bowl, but that was almost 20 years ago. So hopefully, I don't understand because they've actually made some commitments and brought some guys in that's supposed to be talented, but the O line still looks like a mess. We'll see. We'll see what they look like. But luckily, Caleb didn't turn the ball over. I am not buying a number 18 jersey right now. I'm just gonna wait and see. I have a number 1 jersey sitting right there, and that didn't work out too well. Maybe I'll just have to go get myself an orange Walter Payton
Well, he's just
jersey.
going to take the Steelers to the Super Bowl and make Chicago look that much.
Because they will use him the way that the Bears should have, right? And I think it's what we're also, you made a transition to Jalen Hurts and running him less. I think it's what we're seeing in Buffalo, running Josh Allen less, using your running backs to do the running. And just a different style of play. It's more physical. I think for Buffalo, it makes sense. Josh Allen does remind me a little bit of a Ben Roethlisberger type with his body type, big, strong guy, throws the ball really well, doesn't mind running. And I think the Steelers had a similar approach with Justin Fields. Run him when you can, kind of Lamar Jackson-esque, like Baltimore. I think you can win with them. Chicago never did that. So we'll see how they do. Do you want to flip to Miami?
Yeah, we can do that. Well, first, um,
B-Web, what's
if
good?
let's get right into it. I was gonna say in that game, if it was a game of attrition at the quarterback level, who's gonna make the most mistakes, who was and and you're right, Caleb just made less mistakes
He didn't make any. He
than make
missed
it.
some
Right,
guys.
right.
He looked like
He
he
did.
was nervous and he missed some guys, but Will Levis showed why Penn State wasn't all that in their feelings probably when he said he was going to transfer to Kentucky. So, because he
Right.
made some
Yeah.
goofy decisions. So,
That's a very good point. He
yeah.
literally the defense outscored
Yeah.
Chicago's defense outscored their offense. So
And
all right.
Jonathan Owens, Mr. Simone Biles had his first touchdown as a Bear. So, shout out.
Shout out
Yeah.
to Team Owens Biles.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miami, man. What Tua's
I
you can't
know.
tell somebody what to
I
do.
know. And,
And especially when you have that much guaranteed money coming, but and maybe it's because he gets that, rigor mortis type or the you see it, it looks
mhm.
a little worse than someone who's just laying there. But I felt this way after he got back-to-back ones,
Yeah.
a year or so ago. That wasn't even like a crazy hit or anything. It looked like a regular
Well,
contact play. Now, right,
it was, but it wasn't because he
it
hit his head
wasn't
on the ground really hard.
after, right,
Yeah.
but the actual contact with with Hamlin wasn't good.
No, and I don't. Yeah, you and I
And
are
so
not.
not right. So then we're talking about basically when you go to the ground, you got to worry about this kid every time. It'll be interesting to see what happens going forward, but I feel for him in terms
Yeah,
of Tua and his concussions and the decisions that he and his family will have to make.
true.
But when you've got, 200 guaranteed, it's going to be hard to say no because at the end of the day, you want to set your future and your family up, right?
Mhm.
Everyone's willing to take it for themselves, but at the end, you wouldn't want your child to go to do that. But if
No.
it's you, you may be able to justify or rationalize still doing it because of the money or whatnot. But he can make money other ways. I don't know. I don't know about the future of him. Miami themselves, even before that, they were. I mean, it was just not a good game. They were outplayed. Buffalo now has won what 13 or 12 of the last 13 against them. They've got their number. I mean, they just that dynamic offense was getting there was nothing.
Yeah.
They were doing nothing. Some bad turnovers before that. I was gen thoroughly. I'm not sure if I should be impressed with Buffalo, which that's where I'm leaning towards,
Hmm.
or was Miami not great Miami? It's week one, so is it chalking it up to that, or was Buffalo really ready for the smoke? And I'm going to lean towards Buffalo being ready
Yeah.
for the smoke, but I was very surprised by how that game developed and very concerned at the end for Tua's well-being. How about you?
Yeah, I don't think I'll add too much other than the most important thing is just making sure two is okay. And the football stuff afterwards, that takes care of itself. And however way he and his family and the team decide is best. Right. I just want to make sure he's okay. The one thing I will ask, if you will, if fans could ask anything, is maybe consider wearing a Guardian cap if you are going to
Sure.
continue playing. I do want to give a shout out just to those parents and athletes who maybe are listening. There is some equipment that has been. I am certain we're not spokespersons for this, but if you're curious about head injuries and prevention, I actually ran into something. I think it's called the Q collar that I've seen some players wear. It
Mm,
looks right. It looks like this.
it
It
goes
almost
up.
looks like, yeah, it almost looks like headphone brackets around your neck. Really interesting. So, take a look at it. Maybe that's for you. Certainly, we're not pig spokesperson people or anything like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, for Tua to just take care of himself, that's all that matters. Awesome to see Mike McDaniel. He just looks. He's a good dude. He's a good coach. The way he speaks about his player, the way he looks after him, the way he treated him when it happened. Like you wish everyone would do that, and that was awesome to see as coaches ourselves, right? And yeah, I think Buffalo's again 1 game in, 2 games in, 2 weeks in. It's a long season. It's still only September, but so far so good. So far so good.
So far, so good. And they haven't, I think by the end of the year, Keon Coleman's going to be
Hmm.
a top receiver in the league. And so if they can do this while he's growing into it, um, who
Who
knows
knows
the
where they're
type
going to be? Yeah,
where they're going to. So this could probably be their breakout year.
yeah,
Um, hot take, way too early to call. That's what I'm saying is coming out of the NFL,
yeah,
AFC.
yeah. We shall
That's it.
see. We shall see. San Francisco,
Bills, Birds in a Super
Bills,
Bowl. You heard
Birds.
it here first.
Gosh,
Um,
do we want to do that? Do we want to do a week two-ish prediction? You got Bills, Birds. I was
Bills,
jo
Birds.
I was joking with my daughter a few months ago that it would be um, the way this season for it to be really therapeutic for Bears fans would be a Bears Jets Super Bowl and the Bears beat Aaron Rodgers and send him to retirement. That would be awesome. But after watching the Jets play against San Francisco, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in them right now. So I don't. I
It,
don't.
it it
We'll
it was
see.
San Francisco. It was in San Francisco,
Truth.
and it was a lot of those players' first games, real games with a quarterback that does not play by that is a feel of the game quarterback. And a lot of them have
Let's
not
see.
had an Aaron Rodgers back there where everything you practice all week gets thrown out the window because they came out in a different set. So now you cut that off or you
Yeah.
do this differently.
Omaha.
Uh,
Omaha. Yeah.
just watch, just
Just
watch.
fine.
I'm
All
not a,
right.
I'm not a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. We both know that, but
Yeah.
I
We'll see.
they
Because
they could make it. They're going to make a run.
because
They're going to make a
New
run.
England's going to be a little bit competitive. They're going to make games interesting at least. Now they're not going to go win 10 games, but if they win 4 or 5, but they make 5 or 6 interesting, we know Miami's going to hopefully, we'll see what happens because they do have to think about their QB situation if Tua doesn't come back, or if it's delayed at least significantly in coming back. And Buffalo looks strong, so that division is going to be difficult. And we know the Kansas Cities of the world are there, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and the Chargers. Shout out to Jim Harbaugh. I know your favorite coach, my favorite Bears quarterback at least. So we watching. Let's
We're
see
watching.
what the rest of week 2 has in store.
Yeah, absolutely.
Phillies
Looking
look
forward
good.
to it.
Yankees look good. Maybe we can get ourselves a World Series, a little I-95 World Series.
That would be awesome. And let's also not forget, let's give you your flowers, okay? Mr. Syracuse College football, he called it,
I did. That's
pulled
right.
out another one. Um, hey, you called it. It'd be quite a thing to see if they can make a run at and get in that, sneak in that playoff or something.
Just keep an eye on them, everybody. I just have a feeling, again, my concern is their defense, and they almost lost it against Georgia Tech last week because of their defense. But they've got some good things going. I think that they play like Stanford soon or something like that. I'm trying to remember who they have lined up. Yeah, they play Stanford next weekend. They're on a bye this week, but we'll see. And then they play Holy Cross the week after that. So
Mm.
good stuff. All right, this is a good episode. Any parting shots? Any parting words before we wrap up for the day?
Um, I'm pulling, a lot of people are jumping off the Dion Coach Prime bandwagon.
Mm,
I'm not one. He rubbed me the wrong way when he was a player, and I misconstrued the persona for who he was as a person. And as much as I start to feel that way a little bit with him as a coach, I remind myself by watching some of the behind the scenes video and whatnot, he is genuinely a person who's concerned with the wellness of his
yes, he is.
people in his room, not just the players. And so I'm pulling for them. Hope they get it together. It's been 2 years now that their offensive and defensive lines have been push arounds. Um, and so I'm hoping they get it together and get back on the winning track. And they not just win, but should demonstrate some dominance in a game against Colorado State that they can, get a little bit of revenge for, because that's what really threw their season 4 off the trail last year after they lost Hunter for a couple weeks
Right.
with a couple huge games where they have beaten Oregon. Still, no, they would have gotten destroyed with or without Hunter. But in that game against USC, I mean, game against Arizona State, they had some couple games that were really close, one possession games, and they were doing it without the best player, two-way player, best offensive and defensive player in the country, in my opinion. And so that really changed the narrative. And I would think they want some get back. So I'm looking forward and I'm pulling for them to really. I want to see this total destruction tonight of Colorado State. Although shout out to them and their program as well. Says no hate, but so I'm pulling for Coach Prime and the
Love
boys
it.
in Colorado.
Love it. Mine's going to be very, very short. And it's just, again, a brief shout out. We don't talk about baseball on here as much as we maybe should. We do need to bring Tom York back now that we're getting closer to the playoffs. But shout out to the Kansas City Royals, because right now they are lined up to be in the playoffs as a wild card. So they have not been in the playoffs since they won the World Series back in 2015. Some folks might have even forgotten that took place. And yes, the Royals did win the World Series not that long ago. Actually, they've won the World Series more recently than the New York Yankees. So,
Yankees.
so that's super cool, along with seeing San Diego and the Diamondbacks back and the Orioles in contention. So we'll see the next, I think, 2 weeks roughly of the 2.5 weeks of baseball will be good. We'll see what happens with Shohei with his 50-50 chase, and see if Aaron Judge is back on track now that he hit that huge grand slam last night. See how close he can get to 60 before the year runs out.
That's amazing, man. If you get that 50-50.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
And how nobody steals bases anymore. Go Google Ricky Henderson, everybody. Please go to YouTube. Check out some of his amazing feats as a player.
Absolutely.
Man, we were lucky watching baseball, football, basketball in the 90s. That was good living, man. All right. Peace and love, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and be on the lookout for our next episode.